Hi, welcome back to Abundant Self and welcome Steph to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I want that you introduce yourself to start off this episode.
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Steph. I'm a lifestyle and wellness coach. I live in Sydney, Australia, and my mission is to really help women live their best lives through self-development and spirituality.
Yay! I love that so much.
Yay!
Now, we found each other through a coaching program that both of us were participating. How did you get into coaching? Like, you have not always been a coach. I can imagine I have not always been a coach. So, like, what's kind of like for you, maybe even like from the very beginning, like your journey, what has gotten you to where you are right now?
Mm, yeah, so my journey kind of started when I became an adult. So I moved out of home when I was 16, and because of that, I grew up relatively quickly. By 18, I found myself kind of in a position where I was borderline homeless, didn't really have anywhere to go. At the same time, though, I was still kind of keeping up my grades in school. I graduated school, and because of that, I got offered a scholarship into uni. And at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I was always been like a creative person into like art, photography, dance, those sort of things. But because I had this opportunity to go to uni, I was like, oh, might as well try it. Uni seems like a good idea so I can get a good job. And at that time, my dream and goal in life was to get a good job so that I could get paid well, so that I could have a home for myself and be able to provide for my future family. And uni kind of like ticked that box for me. I was like, well, if I go to uni, then I can get a good job and then I'll be able to like get my quote unquote dream, right? So that's what I did. Then I went to uni, finished uni, straight out of uni. I had a miracle happen where I got an internship in LA, and that really expanded me to another level where I kind of had like my first mentor there that I worked with who kind of taught me what they knew. And from coming back from LA, I then had that on my resume, got a job, started like ticking the boxes of, like good corporate job. But at the same time, I was like really battling with like mental health issues from like all the trauma that I had had from previously growing up, moving out of home. I was also like dabbling with like drugs and like partying and just didn't have a healthy lifestyle at all. Um, so then by the time I got the good corporate job, I was getting paid well. I was living in a nice apartment. I still had like toxic drama in my life and I wasn't happy. I didn't feel satisfied, and that was because I didn't heal myself from within. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom where I got arrested that that was like a massive wake up call where I realized that everything that had happened to me up until that point was because of me. And I was in this like real victim mindset where I just thought, oh, life sucks. This is shit. All these bad things just happened to me. It's like not fair. But in that moment, it was like a massive slap in the face from the universe where I realized this is all because of me and I'm the person who can change this. So from that moment, I really dove really deep into personal development where I was like reading all the books, like trying to really heal my life. And that's what I did. I was like meditating twice a day for 20 minutes, journaling every morning, every night, going to the gym, eating well. And within like a year or two, my whole reality around me shifted where I manifested, my dream partner. I got an even better job where, yeah. And that was like all like amazing. I remember like waking up from that point feeling like so happy about life for like the first time since I was a kid, like actually feeling really happy and like grateful for my life. And then I went on a Europe trip. At this stage, I was about 25 by myself. I did a solo trip. And on that trip, it took me about a week to come down from the burnout from my corporate job. So I was working in marketing for a tech company. And I just remember being on this boat on Croatia with like all these other people, like, having fun, and me just like thinking about work. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I can't switch off. And on this boat, I did a meditation by myself as I was like tanning. And I had like this visualization of me living a completely different life to the one that I currently was. Not that anything was wrong with the way that I was living then, because I quote unquote got my shit together,
Mhm.
but it just wasn't it, or just wasn't like my soul's purpose, which was kind of like this realization that I had on this boat. And I just kind of had this vision of like me helping other women and like kind of doing like yoga and dance, kind of like retreats, and like speaking and like all this stuff, which was like so far from what I was currently doing on my job. So once I got back home after that trip, I had a quarter life crisis and went on this massive journey to figure out what am I here to do? Who am I here to help? And I'm so grateful that I had a mentor who kind of like took me under their wing, could see what I was going through. And we worked together for about 2 years or so.
Wow.
And that's kind of when I really started like my own, I guess, journey working with a coach, which I really needed in that time because I had no idea what I was going through. And the support was what I needed to kind of like figure that out. At the same time, I got another coach, which was actually a PT. So I underwent like a physical transformation, but we worked together as well for like 2 years or more. And it was a lot deeper than just here's your workouts. Like we talk about
Yeah.
things like spirituality, mindset, emotions, all of the things. So these two coaches like really helped, I guess, propel me to the next level of where I'm at now, working as a coach. Because during that time, like I was like, oh, this is so weird. I don't know what's going on. And I didn't have anyone else that was kind of going through what I was going through or that could like show me a way out. So I was really grateful for them. And then whilst I was working with them, one of them actually had one of their businesses doing coaching, and I kind of like shadowed them and like helped them out. And from like doing that, as well as at the same time I was doing like a lot of different random stuff, like I would do like astrology readings and like kinesiology and like all these sort of like things that I felt intuitively pulled to try and like figure out the next steps
On
to
your
making it
journey.
clear on my journey and like figuring out what my purpose was. So yeah, and then after working with that coach, I like realized more and more that coaching was kind of like my calling. I started a granola brand, and that was great because I realized that I wanted to be like an entrepreneur. It was very like female focused, that I wanted to like help other women. But when I was like writing, say, emails for this brand, I'd be like talking about like the mind and the body and the spirit. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? It's a
Yeah.
granola brand. So it was like little things like that on my journey that I realized I wanted to go deeper. I really wanted to like help women change their lives. And yeah, that's what brings me here to where I am now.
I love this so much.
Yay!
I'm celebrating you
Ah,
so much. Honestly, Steph, I think your journey is just so inspiring. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on this podcast. Because
thanks,
I was
Jules.
just like, from what I saw from social media, from our conversations in like, our private life, I was just like, she's been there. Like you've been there. Like you, as you say, you hit rock bottom. You've got arrested. Like it can't even get
Yeah,
worse. And so
yeah,
you really know what you're talking about. And now you thriving and you teaching other women and especially like going deeper into like healing trauma and the whole mindset stuff. Yeah, it's just so powerful. So powerful. And I love that. And I wanted to maybe like go a little bit deeper into the whole like scene of you being surrounded by toxic people, having bad habits, and not taking care of your body, of your soul, of your mind. What was it that kind of like made you realize? I guess like the point where you were arrested, you said like was like a turning point. But when you are in that situation, for example, someone listening right now who feels like no friend understands them, maybe they're into spirituality and mindset, but like no one else in their surroundings that was for you the same case, right? Like you were on your journey of like bettering yourself and like having trying to have healthier habits and stuff, but like in your surroundings, your friends maybe were still like partying and like doing things that you weren't. How did you
Mm.
deal with that? Like, can you give some like tangible tips for someone right now in the situation of like, I'm trying, but like the social pressure is real.
Yeah, the social pressure is so real.
Mhm.
I think for me, I felt like for a while I was kind of like living this double life where I was, say, Monday to Thursday, I would be, like doing really well in my job, like going to the gym in the morning, like eating well. But then at the same time, on the weekends, it was like Thursday, sometimes to Sunday, I was like out partying, drinking, like taking MDMA, doing like ketamine, like cocaine, like whatever. And then starting the week again, like as like, oh, like I'm this like wholesome like person. So it's kind of like this fake double life. And this was just before I kind of like hit rock bottom where I was kind of like, I don't know, trying to do both. And the resistance from trying to do both was just like so, it was like pulling and it was just like wasn't working. And I got like signs as well, like that it was no longer serving me, like hanging around the people that I was hanging around. For example, I remember saying to like my best friend at the time, "Oh, I don't really like want to go out anymore. Like I don't think it's for me. It just doesn't like feel good." And her kind of being like, "What's wrong with you? Like have another drink, do a line and like get your shit together, basically." And I was like, so also I was like living with like a lot of housemates where like they were constantly like going out partying as well. So it was like really hard to like separate stuff from that. And I guess like what I did was I literally just like locked myself in my room and I remember them like knocking on my door and being like, Steph, like, what are you doing? You've changed, like, come out. And it was just like the point where I was like, no,
Yeah.
like, and just like had that time and that like space for myself. Like my room literally became like my happy place where I would really spend a lot of time like reading books and I don't know, like going to sleep early and all of those kind of things. But it can feel like super lonely and it was a really like lonely period for me. But over time, it took like months,
Mhm.
years, as I started to change and heal from the inside out, my surroundings, the people that I hung out with, naturally just kind of faded away. For example, that best friend, she was also my housemate. She just like moved out, moved away, moved to another state, like
Simple.
within weeks. Yeah. And then like another housemate, like he left. I mean, it sounds like, oh, nice, they just left. Like it was kind of like messy when they left, but I guess like sometimes when you do the inner work, it just like slowly happens over time. And that's not to say that when that happens that it's all smooth sailing because it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Like it was really messy. Like my housemates leaving, me trying to like find new housemates, and I don't know, just like not really nice situations. But then the new housemates that I got in were like more in alignment with who I then was, where they were
Okay.
kind of like into the same things. They wouldn't go out partying all the time, like were a bit more balanced. And I've just like noticed as well, like throughout my life, whenever I'm going through like a massive period where I'm about to level up, it
Mhm.
always feels quite lonely. And I feel like a lot of people around me, even now, like doing business, being an entrepreneur, like this is like the next level that I'm at. It's like really hard, obviously grateful for Jules, but it's like really hard to like find other people that are like within your current circle who are like going through the same thing that you're going through,
Yes.
especially if you're like trying to get to another level up here and everyone that you're hanging around usually at the same level as you. So what I tend to do is I just kind of go into like a hermit
Yeah.
mode, which is, I don't know, and just kind of like I just get it done. I just like figure out how, like, what is my goal? How can I make this happen for me? And what are the things that I need to do to get there? And a lot of the time that's like cutting out the distractions, which is sometimes like the peer pressure or the people in your circle. And then also figuring out ways to surround myself with like-minded people who are where I want to be, or also have like the same goals of like where I want to go, or are at least at like the same kind of level playing field that I'm at now.
Yeah. There was so much stuff in there that was like so valuable. So many insights. Thank you so much. That was
Oh,
really, really
thanks.
good. I think, or I hope, I guess, that our listeners can take something from that for sure. Because that was something like when I changed and like, also habit wise, that was something that I was going through too. And you mentioning this like loneliness,
Mm,
or like, feeling lonely in that situation, really resonates. But I also want to stress out that whenever you feel like that, there is support out there, right? There are
for
coaches,
sure.
there are mentors, there are people somewhere in some corner of the internet who want to see you succeed and who want to pull
Yeah.
you out of this hole and who want to empower you and inspire you and really be there for you and help in whichever form possible.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like because that was like the story that I was like telling before, that was kind of like what, almost like 10 years ago, so it's a little bit different. Whereas now we have like access to so much more. And when I kind of went through, I guess, my quarter life crisis, trying to figure out my purpose, that's when I worked with coaches because I didn't have anyone in my network that I knew that I could kind of like lean on for support. I think sometimes as well, like we may have like our best friends or whatever, but like there's only so much that they can give, and you sometimes don't want to be emotional burden as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's so great that when you're able to like work with a coach or a mentor or whoever, they are able to give you that support that you need in a different way.
Hmm. Totally. And also like the whole situation or the whole like just like energy frequency like wise, right? That
Yeah.
whenever you, as we were speaking about like leveling up, whenever you also get into a room of people who have done something that you are aspiring to do, or that you're like, trying or struggling right now to get there, they've already done it. So like there is a way how to maybe like get some insights, get some help, get some tips, because um otherwise they wouldn't like teach that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for you, going through what you've went through, you can now teach, and you can now like all of your learnings and all of the tools that you have kind of like um, integrated into your life and established the healthy habits, for example, you can now give that to someone or help someone who is there, who is struggling with habits, um, or like, mindset in general. So that's really, really amazing. And I think mm, when it comes to like the whole habit thing, and like you said you were going to bed earlier, all the things, um, do you feel like in that time you also started to get into manifestation and the whole energetics of life, basically? Or was that at a later time? Because I know that you're also a manifesting girl, so I definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say that that time was when I started to really dive deeper into manifestation. So the first time that I kind of dabbled into manifestation was a little bit earlier,
Hmm.
maybe go back like a few years. So I read a book which was like a law of attraction book, which, if you don't know the law of attraction, it's basically like whatever you put out, you get back in terms of energy. And I was kind of like playing around with this. And the first time I kind of manifested was after I went to LA. I went back to Perth in my hometown, and I like really wanted to leave. And it was just like, yeah, anyway. And I was like, I started like meditating all the time and like visualizing like where I wanted to go. And I always get images of Sydney, even though I'd only been to Sydney once
Hmm.
for a few days. And I just like remember like thinking of like Shelley Beach and Manly. And I would like say affirmations about I'd like be saying affirmations about like things like I am a tech marketer who like lives in Sydney and things like that. And I say that to myself driving to work every day, looking in the mirror. And within, I don't know, like a month or two, I then was moving to Sydney. So that was the first time I kind of played around with it. Yeah, it happened like super quickly. It happened really quickly. It happened so fast. Um, But yeah, I think as well it also happened was because like I really needed to leave that place. And it's like funny that like if things are meant for you, it will like happen in divine timing,
Yes.
especially when you're like manifesting things that are in alignment.
Hmm.
So that was kind of the first time, but then I didn't do it a lot until I kind of like had that rock bottom stage after getting like arrested. Then I was kind of, I remember like journeying a lot and like literally like looking at all these different areas of my life, like career and like my relationships. And a big one for me at that time with my relationships, I really wanted to have like a good group of like girlfriends that I could like have wholesome weekends with where, we go for like brunch and like maybe work out and do like hot girl walks. Whereas before that, I didn't have that. It was like only have friends where we would kind of like go out drinking or like partying or yeah,
Hmm.
it was very different. And then I also wanted to manifest my dream partner because before that time as well, I was like dating a lot, you know, going on dates with like a lot of fuckboys and stuff like that. So yeah, that's when I kind of like really started to like dive into it where I was like, okay, like what do I like really want? And started to like figure out what those things were and then how can I be in alignment with those desires, like what do I need to change within myself. So like looking at like my beliefs, like am I worthy to receive love from someone, for example, like my dream partner, do I feel like good enough for all
Hmm.
that for that person? If not, like what do I need to heal and work on? Do I need to
Yeah.
let go of like previous partners or like whatever? And then taking the action steps to get there. For example, like no longer going on dates with boys that I know are clearly fuck boys.
Yeah. We've been there.
And then like the more that you kind of like show up for yourself in the way of, I guess, your like best, highest future self, the more things in your currently reality will start to shift more quickly.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, manifestation it's so it's life, right? Like it's just so powerful. And I love how you say about the like it comes quickly and it actually happens fast if you
Yeah,
decide and choose for it to happen,
exactly,
basically.
exactly. And like we're all manifesting if we know it or not. It's when we consciously choose to like tune into that.
Yeah. Absolutely. What
That's
would
where the
you say
magic.
to someone who's maybe like still a little bit like not so into manifestation or like it's still like not very common because again like maybe their friends are not talking about these topics um
Mm.
and they think about like aligned action, like what even is that? How would you I mean I would like say I'm a manifestation like expert whatsoever. Like I'm a manifestation coach, right? But like I want to have your kind of opinion and from what you've going through and from like your coachings right now, what is your I guess like definition on taking aligned action? How would you describe it?
Yeah, good question. I'd say that aligned action is taking a step that's closer to what it is that you're manifesting or what you're trying to become. For example, say you want to be like a wellness girl at like I was at that time and you want to like start going to the gym and like you want to like eat well and all of those sort of things. An aligned action step might be if you're currently like eating junk food, Uber Eats, going out every night, etc. Aligned step might be like, well, if I want to be this wellness girl who goes on hot girls walks on weekends and all this sort of stuff, might be signing up for a gym. Meal prepping. Like what is like the in between steps that you can take to get you there that
Yep.
feel good, and like
Yeah.
you know that like it feels kind of like expansive for you where you're like, I know that if I like take that step it's going to help me get there.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. 100% agree. And I love that because this is so tangible for you like explaining it in that way. It just makes so much sense, right? It's just
Mm.
it's not woohoo, it's not like something completely
No.
like out of like space or so. It's like you can apply it right now right here in your life with your habits or with your routines or yeah, with the tasks or action steps that you do on a daily basis.
Mm,
So I love
for
that.
sure. I feel like it's small steps as well. Like we always know
Yes.
the next step, but I feel like sometimes we can get overwhelmed because like the gap from here to here is so big, and then we're like, oh fuck, like I've got like such a long way to go. But if you just think about, oh, what's the next step, which might be sign up for a gym,
Mhm.
go like buy my groceries, and then like you just take it one step at a time, before you know it, then you're like here.
Yes. And then you're suddenly like looking at yourself and you're like, how? Like, oh my goodness, I'm now living that life or I'm being that person that I used to dream of a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
that is so powerful.
Yeah.
I am so, so grateful that you've been here, that you are here, that you shared bits of your story and of your journey, which is so, so inspiring. And I just want to say that for anyone who's listening right now, please go check her out on Instagram.
Um,
Where can we find you? Obviously I'm gonna leave everything in the show notes below.
sure. So the best place to find me is on Instagram. So my handle is Steph.Downs. And where else can you find me? I'm also on TikTok, but Instagram's the best place because I've got everything that you can find about me there. I'm also currently launching a new program, which is all about the fundamentals of how to live your best life. It's called Baddie Basics. Doors are open now. So go check that out if you're like on this, listening to this, thinking, where can I start? That's like the perfect place to start because I literally teach you everything that helped me build my life from the ground up.
Yep, I love
Yeah,
that.
but I'd love to connect with you all.
Yeah, definitely. And again, as I said, like there is so much help out there, right? Like no one
So
should
much.
ever feel like they're alone. Like if you're listening and you feel like you're alone, you are not because there's Steph, there's me. There are so many other incredible, beautiful human beings who really
Mm,
just want the best for you and want to see you succeed and want to see you thriving and living your best life. So thank you so much.
yeah.
Once again, Steph, is there anything else that is right now on your heart that you're like, I need to share this, I want
Oh,
to share this with my audience, with the listeners? Go for it.
yeah, I think so. On the point of like loneliness, and then that you kind of mentioned that there's so much help out there, but I know for like me, when you're like in like a really dark place and you feel like you can't reach out for help, or it's kind of like embarrassing, or it's like this shame, or like whatever. Honestly, the best thing I did was like asking for help and like actually seeking support, because then you don't feel like you're doing it alone anymore.
Mhm.
And it's like half your battles are kind of like cut in half because you've got people who are giving you the like how to actually take the steps that you know that you want to take. But sometimes you need that like accountability, that support, where it kind of feels like it's like a mix between when you have like a coach or a mentor. It's a mix between having like a best friend, but like a big sister or a big brother. It's kind of like a mix between the two, where they're going to give you like the love that you need, but also the tough love, so that you have like a nice little fire up your ass to actually get the things done.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it
Yeah,
better.
yeah, but it's like obviously it's like depends what you're going through as well, because there's also like you've got mental support help out there as well, psychologists, psychiatrists, you've got doctors, like there's so much out there. So yeah, really the first step is to help yourself, because when you realize that, okay, I need help,
I'm a
I'm going to
priority.
help myself, yeah, then you can then ask other people for help.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Steph, for being here. And don't forget, as always, to share this episode with a friend who can also benefit from our conversation. And if you haven't already, follow Steph and follow me on Instagram. And then we see you very, very soon.